This is Leisha Holmes, and I'm your host on the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast. And I know this is going to be no surprise to anybody, but I'm welcoming to our global community today somebody that I've had the pleasure to get to know over quite a long time, actually. In person, virtually. We actually sat alongside one another for years in our offices in Manchester. He's trying to recall it all. It's so long ago. But I'd like to welcome to our community today somebody I think you're going to find, I'm hoping quite challenging, possibly contrary, but certainly very knowledgeable. This is Martin Dangerfield, who is the CEO of Immersive. Welcome to you today, Martin. How are you?
I'm great, and thank you for having me. What a wonderful thing. You're right. I was trying to remember the first time we met, and it was a long time ago. I had hair.
Okay.
I
no
was
beard.
No beard. Hair, no beard, and I was in a suit. That's how long ago it really was. The suit is the measure of anything.
So when would it have been? Let's think about it. Would it have been one of the true events, maybe?
No, we met. I used to be, we'll talk about me in a minute. I used to be a regional director for, what do we call it? What's called REC, isn't it?
Yes.
And I got everybody together. I say everybody, I got you and Chris and somebody else, and we had a coffee. And we said, God, this REC thing's a bunch of rubbish, isn't it? I went, no, I represent REC in the Northwest. It's going to be amazing. Let's do something. We never did anything.
No, we didn't, but that was pre-recession. It was.
Yes, that's how long ago. That's how long. So we.
Wow.
So for a very long time.
We have known each other a very long time. Well, so I know who you are and I know what you do, but our global community don't yet. They'll be clicking away on LinkedIn. So just give us an overview of what your business does and a little bit about you.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Well, the good news is, name like Martin Dangerfield, you'll find me really quickly on LinkedIn. There aren't very many of us. There's a professor of Balkan Studies at Wolverhampton University. If you want to go and say hello to him as well, he'll love that. I get his emails every now and again. Yeah, I run a bit. Well, no, they're not
very interesting.
They're okay. There is a story to tell, but not now. I run a business called Immersive. We're an in-house recruiter. So with that there's an awkward UK phrase, he says, sounding very global there, that is embedded recruitment. So what we actually do is go in-house and work either alongside an existing talent acquisition team or instead of an existing talent acquisition team. So different model to a traditional sort of agency.
Yeah.
But it means we have lots of awkward conversations. So I say awkward because we're sat in the middle. Companies often see there's in-house, one silo, there's agency, another silo. Well, we're sort of in the middle because we are desperately trying to look more in-house and be more in-house because we operate in-house. But, there's a commercial bit that comes in as well. So a real happy blend. And we work across Europe and North America currently. We've got people, North America, South America, a couple of in Africa, and then scattered across Europe. Sounds a bit clever clogs, but properly global. In the fact that I'm only with a few people in the UK. So there you go.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, thank you for that wonderful explanation. And, the embedded model is certainly one that I think has taken much more sort of precedence over the last few years. I think most people in the UK will be familiar with that term. But we do have a global community, so it's great that you also have that reach yourself, because we're probably about 50% UK listeners. The rest is scattered across the rest of the globe, which is fantastic. So I'm going to start with a really contrary question, because that's kind of who you are and what you stand for, I guess, in a way. But why do you think recruitment agencies are fucking things up?
You said I wasn't allowed to swear. No, that was me.
No, I didn't. I said no rules. I said no rules.
They're wonderful. There you go. End of contrary. I'm not going to be contrary. There's always a temptation to go agency bashing, isn't there? Which is challenging. A lot of my work right now is talking to companies about their recruitment model. So the reason I always talk about recruitment agencies is they're the holy grail. So if I find a client that's 100% agency, then, or a prospect that's 100% agency, then we've got a really good chance of winning them as a client. The main challenge is it's never about the individuals. I will say this and people don't believe me. Recruiters are recruiters. And I do think there is a mix between in-house and external, but it's because of your motivation and how your objectives work. This is where typically agency recruiters go, why would you do that job for so little money at some point? But of course, people are motivated by different things.
Absolutely.
So a typical in-house recruiter is motivated by the hire. An agency is motivated by the transaction. So the reason they're fucking it up, and I suspect the reason that I also struggle to sell what we do sometimes, is it's not always about the money. So it's the chasing of the transaction means along the way, you either cut a few corners, hopefully that'll make her really upset, or more importantly, you're pushing something on both the candidate and the client that perhaps isn't quite right for them. And we both know that a really good recruiter probably doesn't want to do that, because a really good recruiter is thinking about their long-term business, both either from the client paying their fee or the candidate who's going to recommend them to their friends and do such other things. But as we know, the market is full of some really good recruiters, some really bad recruiters. The awkward bit's the middle bit. The middle bit's really difficult, where organizations are paid for by the transaction that all those placements create.
Yeah.
So it means you then have to have a load of recruiters whose job is just to fill roles. And that's lovely, but fundamentally flawed, because that's not what clients want anymore. At least it's not what our clients want anymore. So maybe that's the thing. Or maybe it's just saying, carry on doing it, because that's great, because then I'll have lots more clients and they'll all see the light. But the reality is, where it's starting to rob a little bit is also the candidate experience. The candidates are so cynical. So they bump into an in-house recruiter and they think recruiters are all the same.
Absolutely.
An in-house recruiter is talking about the company and that company alone. So if you want to work for, I don't know, pick a name. We should make up a name or use a real one. Let's work for Amazon. Okay. So if an Amazon recruiter is only going to be talking about Amazon and about why you should work at Amazon. An agency recruiter would say, yes, but I've got a total reach into the market for that candidate. But that's probably not what the candidate wants. They want to work for Amazon. They want to find out all they can about working at Amazon. So the bit that they really fuck up is there's an awful lot of old school behavior. So there's the sending the CVs, there's the
without permission.
Without permission, there's the sending the terms. I mean, my favorite one is almost like, you've opened this email, so therefore you've accepted our terms. It's like, well, no, I haven't, have I?
No, I don't think so.
And it's really interesting that you and I have been around in the business for a very long time. And all those things we probably thought had sort of gone away. I don't know if they've come back because the market's difficult. It's probably an element of that. And I don't blame agency recruiters for trying to earn a crust, because that's not the problem. But that transactional nature creeps into everything that happens next. As an anecdote, I'm going to use a real live example of a client without saying their name. One of our live clients right now, we looked at the last 114 hires, a very precise number, because they've been using us and they've been using an agency every now and again, or a number of agencies every now and again. So it's a really lovely benchmark. So we made 99 hires and the agencies made 15. And of the 99 hires we made in 18 months, roughly, 6 have left.
Okay.
6 agency hires have also left.
Wow.
So our numbers are the same. But the awkward thing is, we've hired 99 and they've hired 15.
Yeah.
So the number you come up with is 6% of our hires have left, which is still actually a number we probably do with improving.
Right.
43% of agency hires. I was going
to say, it's almost half, isn't it? Gosh.
Right. So it's easy to go, agency hires are rubbish, but it's actually also to do with the hiring manager engagement, that they see agencies as fast, that they'll go to market quickly, they'll come armed with their database, and therefore they'll have the right person immediately. But actually what happens is, like anything else, your database is only as good as the people that are in it or the engagement you've got within it. All that's really happening is if you've got the right person who's available sort of now, perhaps, maybe. But there's almost like a sort of implied belief that because they've gone out to market quickly and brought candidates quickly, then they are the best ones now.
The fastest finger first kind of mentality.
Yeah, that's the problem. So fundamentally, if we did a little bit more analysis, because that sounds like a bit of a crappy thing. Again, my job is to agency bash some of the time. So in this particular scenario, it probably is a little bit. But actually, it's to do with the relationship with the hiring manager as well. There's implied trust from a manager because the agency is external, ironically. They go, oh, you're outside, so therefore you must see the bigger world other than internal. Whereas an internal in-house recruiter, they only see it from our internal perspective, so maybe they don't see the market in the same way. But in all cases, all of the levers on the agency side all left because they could do the job, they had the skills, but they didn't fit the culture of the business. They were nowhere near. And that's the challenge, I suspect, that the reason why in-house recruitment is more successful, in my opinion, and the reason why our business is doing okay in a difficult market is that cultural fit. And cultural fit is such a woolly phrase, isn't it?
Well, it's just so hard to make. You ask 10 recruitment leaders what does that mean, and they'll have 10 different answers, because I do ask that question all the time on my podcast.
But I always tend to think you sort of know, if you spend enough time in a business, you sort of know I've got two people with the same skills. They're the same salary, the same person. They look the same, sound the same. But you'll know one of them's going to survive better or be better in that organisation versus the other one.
And when you say, just let me pause you, when you say no, are we talking intuitively or are we using data and psychometrics?
A bit of both. Yeah, a bit of both, actually, whether it's, there is some science behind it. How you measure culture can be a really, again, back to that difficult thing. I mean, there are awkwardly some tools which allow to measure culture. I still fundamentally think there is a awkward intuitive. I don't know if that's actually true. I'm sure there's some psychometric people out there saying, no, you're completely wrong. But cultural fit, you get a sense of somebody. I was talking about this the other day with somebody, actually going on about it, but Gymshark in the UK, an amazing brand.
Amazing.
Super successful leadership. However, I wouldn't fit in. I'm not their target market for their product or to work there. And I know that. So it means if I look at some of their employer brand stuff or their job descriptions, it's not even aimed at me. It's just not me. And that's what I mean by culture. It says they know what good looks like for them.
For them, that's their measure.
And I quite like them though, actually, because some of their stuff is ruling me out. The danger, I think, with a lot of organisations, and we're probably as bad as anybody else, we're trying to catch a little bit of everything and not be too controversial. Whereas Gymshark tend to sort of say, if you look like this and you work like this and you want these things, you'll probably do very well here. Come and join us. And I think that's really interesting because it does rule out automatically, 90% of the people would ever read that job ad, but deliberately so. Whereas most of us say, hey, come and do this interesting, exciting, whatever, vibrant thing. And by default, I've captured an awful lot more people than we probably really want to talk to. Knowing how to say no in recruitment is probably quite a tough thing. And that maybe bring me on to the last thing as I go on about an agency recruiter. They find it very difficult to say no, don't they? Bless them.
To who? To
everybody in the same. They want to say yes to the hiring manager every single time because the hiring manager is going to pay them. True. They want to say yes to the candidate if the hiring manager has shown any interest in that candidate whatsoever.
Right.
They're desperately trying to get that transaction forwarded and happen and make it happen.
Because they've got their KPIs to hit of outcomes of.
And that's it. And that's so it's the age old recruitment thing. I mean, I've been talking about this for 1,000 years. Should anybody out there want to go and spend more time on YouTube, just if you Google my name, there's a CW Jobs Q&A session from 2011. Shows you how great my crystal ball was. There's 80 IT recruitment agencies sat in the room. And I said, I said to them, your days are numbered. I'm in-house, I'm Clever Clogs, you're not, your days are numbered. And interesting, some of them believe me, some of them are like, never. And some were like, oh, maybe we can just change a little bit along the way. Then somebody spotted asked me a question about, so what sort of terms should I supply or something else? And it's like awful.
No, you ruined the video. Well, okay, I'm going to award something to you here because we've known each other a very long time. You have a magic wand. And given that we know our listeners are a mix of in-house and agency. So this is specifically to our wonderful community right across the globe, some of whom are just starting their recruitment careers. So we've got a captive audience here, Martin. Magic wand. What's the one thing that they should do to make themselves better for you as the in-house and for the client, for the end user client? Because ultimately it's all about delivering for the client. What can they do in terms of whether it's their behaviors, whether it's the way that they conduct themselves? Maybe it's three things, I don't know, but I want to narrow it down. That's
so difficult. You're asking me what makes a good recruiter versus a bad one, really, because that's fundamentally.
Basically, yeah, but we do have a lot of new people starting their recruitment careers listening, so I think we can actually really impact somebody today.
No pressure. So my take, well, I think awkwardly again, it's the same thing we've probably been saying for years. Good recruiters listen. Good recruiters listen to.
What'd you say?
I said good. So if they listen to the hiring manager. They don't listen to the brief. They listen to the, if I was on a we have a client who's got what is a marketplace, which is a euphemism for they shove a load of their contract work onto a marketplace, and each of those roles goes out to about 12 different companies. And you're required to go into a call with the hiring manager and the managing partner who manages the marketplace. We're the only non-agency on that call. So I see 11 faces that look remarkably similar, and they also ask the same questions. They always ask, you've been briefed already, you've been sent a decent brief which tells you what they want, where they want it, how much they're paying, etc., etc., etc. And the questions are always the same thing. They're always seeming to ask questions for the sake of it, to validate stuff that's obvious. You want to validate the things that aren't obvious. And it's almost that, what don't you want? I can see what you want, but that still narrows it down to, 8 billion people. What don't you want? What doesn't work for you? So good recruiters, I always think, are just challenging a little bit around what do you want? The start of that basics. And recruitment is about hiring people. What don't you want? Because if you get that worked out, then it's an awful lot easier to work out what you do want. I said, using my Gymshark example, it's a bit like that as well. They rule out 90% of candidates at application because people don't want to work there. They go, I don't fancy that. But the 10% that do really want to work
there. I just want to pause because what Martin has said there, I live and breathe, and it's incredulous. But bearing in mind, my clients are recruitment agencies and my candidates are experienced recruiters. I don't do anything at entry level, really. I ask that question every single time I interview somebody or I take on a new client. What don't you want? And everybody, 99% of people go, I've never been asked that question before. And I'm like, why would you never ask that question? It's so easy to then say, well, what I don't want? Because you know what it'll do then? Guess what? Let's join the dots. It's going to tell you what you do want much more easily. So I'm so pleased you said that. It's like, it's a eureka moment, but it's actually really simple.
Oh, everything I think is really simple. I think recruitment's really simple. We make it very complicated. But I think there's something in that though. It's about, again, that stereotypical recruitment agency person unable to say no. So they don't want to ask that question because some might breed some sort of negativity to the call. But it's not, as you say, to me, it's just it's a solid qualification. It says, you're embarking on, as a recruiter, you're going to go and find somebody for your hiring manager or your client, whichever side of the fence you sat on. Let's make it work for you. I think the other thing is that what I found from entry level early starters in recruitment, clearly they don't know everything and everything. That's great. So ask questions. There's nothing wrong with asking questions, but do you think about the question you're asking some of the time? And that's of everything in the business. So I think there's an element of trying to be a bit more. Oh, I sound so old. A bit more sort of worldly wise. I'll use an example. There's always on both sides of the fence, there's always that sort of quite narrow view of, I'm talking to a hiring manager, they're X years old, they may be, they're different gender to me, they're, whatever. But you need to do your research on either the business that you're working for, really think about why would somebody want to work here? If you're working with a client in an agency position, try and find something about the hiring manager. Try and find out, again, back to that, likes, dislikes, whatever. But don't be afraid to try and just bring other things to the conversation that will demonstrate you actually half know what you're talking about. I think there's the biggest challenge in recruitment still is that relationship between manager, the person doing the hiring, and whoever's doing the hiring for them or with them. And I think those two things are slightly different.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'm going to use your word that you used very early on in this interview, which is the transactional recruiter. And I think, and I predict, certainly based on the podcast that I've recorded in the last few months around AI, if you are listening to this and this is resonating with you, that you are transactional, that you recognize that about yourself and the business you work for, you will get replaced by a recruiter using AI. You will get replaced by a machine, because if you're transactional, where's the human interaction? Where's the influence? Where's the knowledge? Where's the instinct? And it's not being afraid to challenge. Even when I started my recruitment career, and I was wet behind the ears, I was 24. I wasn't very worldly wise. I just absolutely winged it. And I was obviously very well trained by our lovely friend Bill Borman. Let's say hi to Bill.
Hi, Bill.
Hi, Bill. Back in the 90s, and we were trained we had to ask challenging questions. We weren't allowed to say, what are the hours? What's the job? Where will it be working? We weren't allowed to ask that when we took a job, and we had to ask really contrary questions to get us used to asking challenging questions. Because you know what? Most human beings, if I said to you, what's the most difficult resignation you've ever endured? You've probably never been asked that question before. What's the worst thing you've ever had to do as a parent? Or, these are really interesting questions that most people don't ever answer. As opposed to, what are your hobbies? I couldn't care less what your hobbies are, really. I don't know, reading. So just don't be afraid. Listen to what Martin's saying from that the perspective you've got quite a holistic view of the market, I would say, actually.
We're a bit of a barometer right now. I think I was saying that to again, I don't like to repeat my stories to people, but the rise of embedded, certainly in the UK, it's not so prevalent in the rest of Europe right now. But if we look at the market for the last 2 years, we all came out of lockdown. I started my business in lockdown because I had nothing else to do, being poor and penniless and having no more money. I remember having a call with you.
We did, and I was like, get on OnlyFans. No, I'm only joking.
And I did, and not even you arrived on that. I sent it to everybody I knew, and then they didn't believe me. They didn't want to send it. They didn't want to pay for those pictures, so I had to give them away for free. And it was just a bit awkward. It has changed. It means I can't look people in the eye in quite the same way. But we came out of that, so 2021. So saying about our business is a barometer of other things. So when people started to hire quickly, they suddenly needed people like us. They needed that embedded team to boost the existing TA team normally. Agencies needed to come to you because suddenly they're going, I can see all this money coming. I need more people. I need more people on the ground. And so you and I both are equally sort of measures of what's going on in the market. Me in-house, you agency. I think actually we should do that together. That'll be
I call myself the barometer as amongst other things. Carry on.
So we hit the back end of 2021. Everything's good. We were doing some work with a large travel business in the Netherlands. Can't say them out loud because their lawyers get very upset. Where we went in-house to hire recruiters or hire TA people, where they said we need dozens. If 2022 goes the way they were forecasting, we need dozens more recruiters than we currently have. Find them, go wherever. And we were looking in Romania and in Israel and China, all sorts of other off the slightly beaten path places, hence why we're doing it. Jump again to sort of, I always think the peak last year was probably April, May. Certainly from our business, May, June were the most financially successful businesses at the point we're going, wow, this is looking good. We could start to invest some of that money in other things. We took on some salespeople. We started to do all those good things that businesses do. But the market can't sustain that for forever.
Nope.
And I think that's where we find ourselves now. So we found that when the market's on the up, you and me suddenly get very busy.
Yep.
When the market's on decline, you and me get dropped first. That's probably not quite the same for an agency. For us, it's definitely a black and white thing. They say, right, hiring freeze, lose the embedded, lose our lose contractors, lose anybody that we can trim some costs before we have to take our own team out. And we've worked with clients where they've done that. They've gone contractors, us, and then gone through their own TA team. But we know, going back to the when, not if, at some point those businesses will start hiring again.
Absolutely.
And then you and me are back on being busy because we're available today. We're ready to go. We'll hit the ground running almost. So we'll fill that back up again whilst they then look for their own permanent people to sit in the seats again. Agencies will be called upon more often, which means that you'll get busier again because agencies go, oh, look, the market's turned. We've got more demand. We need more people. But going back to the if I was in recruitment or starting in recruitment now, you're absolutely right. The human element, we've always talked about recruitment being a sort of people-based business. I'm not sure that's true anymore. ChatGPT is, it's changed things, but it's only changed things for those that allow it to. And awkward, it's that middle ground. The good recruiters and the good in-house talent acquisition people, they're neither here nor there. They're using ChatGPT. They're using it to help make them be more efficient, automate some stuff that they didn't before. It gives them more bandwidth. Awesome. The bottom end, they're not going to use ChatGPT, but they're probably not going to be replaced either because they're just they're very thick-skinned. They don't just get on with it, don't they?
Yep.
But that middle ground where they're writing an okay job spec, well, I can get that written by ChatGPT. It will be better, and I can automate the posting of it, and I can automate the responses that I get. I can all of these things. That the human element is going to be interesting. So for me, it'll be interesting to see what happens next. Almost that again, looking back at the doom and gloom we've had in the past, recession 08, 09, I went in-house after that, and loads of us went in-house, and certainly that maturity of the in-house model came about because of that. COVID, suddenly everything plummeted, but then grew, and when it grew, it came back disproportionately big.
It wasn't a real market.
We didn't just reset to 2019. We reset astronomically.
Boom market. It was crazy.
And it is a boom, and that's the only thing. So I was having this debate with somebody there's this sort of philosophical thing. It says, is this a bubble or a recession? So bubble being an example of the 2000 bubble. Tech companies all suffered, lost share price, laid off loads of people, and in the main took a long time to recover. Recession, plummeting doom and gloom, but actually they recovered and then continued to grow.
Yeah.
And whilst the pain, obviously, you know, again, new each other in recession, that whilst there was the pain of that period of time, things didn't go to zero. Things were just reset a little bit. So they were hard, they were tough times. But then the outcome was that we were out of it a little bit quicker. So I'm actually hoping this is a proper recession, but awkwardly it isn't. We haven't actually had a recession.
No. And once this goes live, which will probably be in autumn 2024, we're recording this in the summer of 2023. I'd say 2024, I mean 2023. Who knows? Because the reality is that all the indicators are that we've not been in a recession. I think that there's so many different combinations. The war obviously has had a massive impact. Who knows what will happen with regards to AI? But I agree with your summation of it. Are you like going to be a bot in 5 years' time, do you think? Think we'll be replaced by a robot?
Well, I was going to say a story. We will be in places. We'll be bots, of course we will. We got our first candidate response that was absolutely. It was slightly obvious it was automated.
Wow.
But, yeah, we're doing some client work, and yeah, the response was automated. It was ChatGPT written. It was an automated response because he knew the standard responses. We only know this because we did actually follow on, and so we knew the standard responses he gets from rejection emails. The emails all look the same. Wow. So ChatGPT is brilliant at capturing that and going, a great. If you feed all these in, a great reply to it is this. So all he's done is saying, when I see an email that looks a bit like this, automatically reply. So yeah.
Did you progress him?
No, it's been rejected. No, it's been rejected.
Interesting. I'm going to watch this space. I'm going to watch this space and see how that transpires. I really am. But look, you are, as I knew you would be, you are providing such a valuable insight, and I think your pragmatism and your general sense of humour is what makes you very special, Martin Dangerfield. And whoever Professor Martin Dangerfield is,
I'm not a professor, sadly. He is.
Please pass on. Do you know, I've done the same thing because I've got quite an unusual name, and there are loads of Leisha Holmeses, and I can't believe it. They're not in recruitment though, so I think I'm just going to do a Madonna and just call myself Leisha, I think, going forward. But on that note, let's not leave it so long next time. And thank you for joining us on the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast.
No problem at all. Thank you for having me.